There are a lot of great final girls in the horror genre, and quite a few of them, for me anyways, are in the franchise of Friday the 13th. But I want to take some time to talk about someone that I think is way underrated and deserves a lot more credit. I'm talking about the disco queen herself. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite franchises of all time in any genre of film, and that's Friday the 13th. I love all of the movies so much. Even Jason Goes to Hell. It has its moments. You guys know how I feel. But just playing. Um, but I wanted to take some time to talk specifically about Friday the 13th Part 3, which for a lot of fans, there are people that really, really love Part 3. And then there are those who think, it's just okay. It's campy. It's cheesy. The 3D isn't great and so forth. But I think that film is so much fun. There is a lot of fun to be had in that film. And that sounds crazy to say that about a horror movie, but for you guys that are really hardcore horror fans, you know what I mean. You're watching a horror movie, whether it's with a group of friends or a couple people or even alone, you're watching a horror movie for that experience. And that's what I do as well. And when I'm watching part 3, it starts right out with that whole experience factor, right? You have the little flashback of what happened at the end of part 2 with the amazing Jenny, played by the amazing Amy Steele, who was going to be in part 3. They had that as the idea to bring Jenny back, and fortunately, things didn't work out that way. Very, very sad. I would have loved to see what that would have turned out to be. But then there's the other part of me, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this in this video and see what you guys think. I'm really, really happy with the final girl that we did get in Friday the 13th Part 3. And that's Chris Higgins, played by the amazing Dana Kimmel, the very underrated Chris Higgins. And that's why this video hopefully will touch a lot of you guys' hearts and bring up great conversation. But after they show those flashbacks of Part 2, and they zoom in on Pamela's decapitated head, and then boom, the font just comes right out at you. Friday 13th Part 3. It's in 3D. It's the music. It's disco time, right? And all of a sudden, and even when I was a kid, I remember seeing this. All of a sudden, it feels different, right? It still has like this atmosphere within the music that's kind of creepy, still reminding me of Camp Crystal Lake and Jason and so forth. But it also feels like it's upbeat. It's got energy to it. So that's how it starts off. Now, the film itself, I think, is very, very smart because we see Jason in the shadows quite a bit. When he goes to the mom and pop store and he's stalking them outside, and all you can see is his shadow. I think it was I think it was smart for them to kind of portray Jason this way, because at this point, we don't know what to expect from him, right? And obviously neither do the characters in the movie. And I think it was really, really cool because it slowed the movie down a little bit, but in a good way, right? And it made me think a little bit of the original Friday the 13th, where there was a lot of stalking, there was a lot of POV shots, and kind of, checking out these campers, coming up close to them, pulling back, not always just killing them right off the spot. And so there was this real stalk factor that they gave Jason in Friday the 13th Part 3. You have a cast of characters that I think are very, very likable, fun. Obviously, they're going to have a good time going to camp. They're going to Chris's family's place, which is right there at the lake. And so I think it's really, really cool. But Chris is a character that is presented and is very, very different from Alice and also from Jenny. Chris is someone that has had an encounter with Jason. We come to find that out. And so not only, when you think of her as a final girl, you got to give her a lot of credit because she survived Jason once. Now, by her account, it totally was luck. That's what it seems like. It was totally luck, where he just didn't pursue her, continue to pursue her. But whatever. The point is that she's dealt with this before and she's dealing with the PTSD of that situation. So her as a character, she's already got a lot of depth to her. Now, as a kid, I didn't pick up on that shit. I was just I was just watching a horror movie, and I was just like, oh, okay, cool. This is the new final girl.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, bitch.
But now, is someone that really, looks deeper into these films and enjoying them for a lot of different things. I think her character, it was very smart for them to write her character like this. And we're talking about 1982. And I think that it gave her something that was very, very different. And so you're following her throughout this movie and you're wondering, okay, is this going to totally crumble her? Right. And I think with her as a final girl, she gets lost in the shuffle, not because she's a bad final girl, but I think when you talk about Friday 13th as a franchise, there's so many great final girls, and people have all their favorites. Some people they stick with Alice because she was the first. Adrienne King was amazing. There are a lot of people that love Laura as Tina in Friday 13th Part 7 because that was just so bombastic, off the walls, batshit crazy. She's got these powers, and it's just crazy stuff going on with 7. The franchise also was trying different things at that point. Some people are really big fans of Megan from Part 6. She was a badass chick. She's driving the car. She's not taking anything from anyone, including Tommy. There are a lot of fans obviously of Ginny. Ginny's amazing, one of my favorites for sure. It's just because of just who she was, the things that she did, the way she was dealing with Jason at the end of the film. And no disrespect to any of the other final girls. Also, shout out to Melanie Kinnaman, who was great as Pam in Part 5. She was absolutely amazing. And also, it was amazing to get a chance to speak with her on the channel. She's a really, really amazing lady. But I think with Chris, she gets lost in the shuffle and almost forgotten about. And I think it's too bad because there was a lot going on with her. Now, with the movie itself, you've got Jason stalking and kind of picking his spots and so forth. But obviously, the big thing about Part 3 is that's when he dons the hockey mask for the first time. Shout out to Shelley, the greatest unsung hero of the franchise, who gave us the hockey mask in the movie. And it was almost like when Jason put on that hockey mask, it was almost like he was given that boost, to do greater harm, to be more confident. In that scene where he's shooting Vera with the spear gun, it was amazing. It was amazing because of how he was introduced. He's walking on the pier, or right by where she's at. Anyway, she's on the pier. And it was like, wow, he just walks out. You hear that little bit of that music tingle and so forth.
Hey, I dropped your wallet. I'm sorry.
And it was a great scene, man, because once he pointed the gun at her, it was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And Vera as a character as well is just like, what are you doing? And then boom, he shoots it. It's all said and done. And then the thing about what Richard Brooker did portraying Jason, and rest in peace to Richard Brooker, because I think he was a fantastic Jason. But once he shot her, it was almost like, he just had this little bit of attitude to him, the way he threw the gun down, and then he just kind of turned away, kind of like, yeah, who's next? And he just had this physicality about him, because this is really when we first get a chance to see him like right in plain view. And then he's just picking people apart. Amazing kill scenes in Part 3. Severely underrated, man. I mean, the handstand kill to this day is still so effective. The way it's shot right from underneath, it still gets me every time. I'm like, oh man, it kind of makes me cringe. But the thing that gets me the most about Part 3 is that finale, that last 20 minutes of film. And Chris, up until this point, has been dealing with the events in her past, trying to pull it all together. She's trying to be brave and so forth. But the finale is when she really shines. That's when she really shows not only her courage, but her resourcefulness, and the fact that she just doesn't just run, right? You have those scenes where she was waiting outside for Jason to come outside of the cabin, and then she hits him over the head. And it's like, watching it now, knowing what's going to happen, my first thought is run, run, go. But, she was facing her fears like right there in front of us. And I think it was really cool. The cat and mouse play with her and Jason was so good. It really was. When she's in the hall stabbing at Jason right in front of him. First of all, it's really well shot, and I think that it gives you just this really great POV, like you feel like you're right there. And Jason, moving out of the way. I mean, she was really going after him. She really was. And so when they get to the barn right at the end, I mean, again, she's just going for it. She's trying to survive. She's going for it. Dana Kimmel, her physicality in this movie, man, they put her through the ringer. When she falls, even right before she gets to the barn. But the way it's all shot, all of this finale, all of this last act with her basically being the last survivor, it's done with such energy and intensity, like you're on the edge of your seat. I still think it's one of the best finales in the entire franchise.
You're goddamn right.
And that says a lot, man, when you're talking about all of these movies spanning 40 years. But again, when she gets him, gets the rope around him and he hangs, and you're thinking, oh, it's over. It's over. I remember the first time I watched that scene and I was thinking, oh, she did it. And you could take a breath. It's always cool when you're watching a horror movie and it's at the end of the movie or near the end of the movie. You've got the antagonist that has basically been vanquished or whatever. And you just kind of go, it's like, it's over, And they were really, really smart, because at this point, you still got, I don't even know, man, like at least another 12 minutes, 10 minutes of movie easily, right? Because she opens the barn door and then boom, you get that Friday the 13th sting with the music. And then sure enough, he takes off the mask. He lifts himself up. I mean, we're talking, hey, Jason did this way before Michael did it in H2O, right? Like when he did that one arm pull up, Jason pulls himself up, and next thing you know, it's on again. And then you've got the great scene where she uses the axe. You think it's over, and it is kinda. Now the ending, I know some people will think, well, the ending is, it's too much like the ending of part one. You're talking to someone that is a huge fan of the ending of part one. Part one, at the end when Alice is in the boat, that was kind of the moment for me, when I became a horror fan, because I had watched the original Friday 13th, and with that stinger at the end of part one, being able to get through it and totally not crap my pants, I was just like, okay, I did it, So with part three, I don't think it's bad. I really don't. I've heard some people say, well, they're just copying part one. I don't think it was bad. I think if anything, it was kind of doing a play off of part one, and they did it differently. There was a little bit different in the beats, because she's in the boat and she's away from the cabins and so forth, and then she sees Jason in the window. He's unmasked, he's got the wound on his face and so forth. And so as the viewer, especially the first time I watched, I was like, oh my God, he's still alive. And, Richard Brooker's looking crazy, and it's all weird, Now, again, what's interesting is originally they had different makeup for Jason unmasked. And I believe it was Stan Winston that had done the practical work and so forth. And there was a scene where he actually decapitates Chris. So there's some cool stuff there about the behind the scenes. I've done some shorts on it and videos and so forth. But anyways, she sees him, and then boom, he comes out of that front door and he's ready to rock and roll. And then boom, she realizes it's a dream. So it's kind of like a play off of part one in that sense. But then they get you again, because then you've got Mrs. Voorhees coming out of the water, grabbing Chris, pulling her down. And it's like, oh man. So it's almost like they gave you two stingers at the end, which was really, really cool. In other words, the way they timed everything, it was kind of offsetting me. When I first watched it, it's kind of like, oh man, that was just a dream with Jason. And boom, Pamela comes out of the water, which of course that's a dream as well, because then she wakes up and the thing of it is when she wakes up and she's totally bonkers crazy. Now, I don't know if this was on purpose, but to me, it feels like it's an homage to Sally at the end of TCM. And it's kind of like she got away, but she's lost it. I think that for me, I wish it had ended a little bit differently where, she was maybe just kind of like, I don't know, withdrawn and just boom, she survived and so forth. But it is what it is. And there was also plans for her to come back. To bring Chris back into the franchise, which that didn't happen as well. And I know there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on with the direction they wanted to go in and what Dana wanted to do as far as her opportunities and her career and so forth. And I really wish she would have come back. It's kind of crazy because with Friday 13th, they've had multiple times when they were going to bring back a final girl, but didn't. Or in the case of Alice. I don't think the original plan was for her to really take over part 2, but they did bring her back to kill her off in the beginning of part 2, which that was too bad as well. So it's funny because with Friday 13th, other than the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, you have these one and dones. It's a lot different than with Halloween. Obviously they brought Laurie back multiple times and they brought Jamie Lloyd back multiple times. So it's kind of like, man, it's really, really crazy. Or even in Nightmare on Elm Street, when you look at Nancy's come back, when you look at Alice, she's come back. So, Friday 13th, other than Tommy with the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, it's usually a one and done for the final girls. But anyways, I think Friday 3 is very special. It's actually one of my favorites. It's a fun entry in the franchise. I know for some people, they think of it as campy and cheesy, but for me, I have fun with it. And one of the biggest reasons is because it has an amazing final girl, a severely underrated final girl. When you talk about Chris Higgins, played by Dana Kimmel, I think she had all the attributes of an amazing final girl. A lot of story, a lot of depth to her character, and great moments throughout the film. Even before the finale, you had some moments where she got, scared, you thought something was going to happen and it didn't happen. And, it was just really, really well done. She did a great job. I would have loved to have seen her come back in another movie. Who knows? Maybe one day, maybe they will. I mean, these franchises, these legacy franchises have shown that they will bring characters back. And I think she definitely could be a character that would be fun to see again in any capacity. I think it would be really, really cool. You guys, let me know what you think about Friday the 13th Part 3. Is it a favorite of yours in the franchise? Is it not? And why? Let me know why. I think it'd be a really fun discussion. If you haven't seen it in a long time and you don't remember it a lot, I would say give it a watch. It's really, really fun. Don't put on your 3D glasses though, because the 3D isn't great. It has a few scenes that are all right, but I mean, I guess you could do it if you want to reminisce and be retro. It's not horrible. So, just be ready for some bad 3D. But anyways, I give them credit for trying something different, and it was 1982, guys. So don't forget to hit the like button. It helps to support the channel, and I'd appreciate it. If you have not subscribed to the Night Watch Zone, this is the time to do it. Please do it, and we'll continue these conversations. And also, if you haven't already, hit the join button next to the subscribe button. It allows you to be a channel member, helps to support the channel. You also get exclusive watch parties, hangouts, perks, and content. I'll catch you guys later. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.